Here, it's not just a fancy, cute little phrase that we say, but our government is one of the people, by the people, and for the people. It's not a government of attorneys or legislators or politicians or special interest groups. It's a government of the people. Our Declaration of Independence and countless United States Supreme Court cases tell us that we, the people, have all the sovereign power. And in order to come together to create our country, we established our Constitution, which creates our government and severely restricts its powers. Article 4, Section 4 of our U.S. Constitution tells us that we have a Republican form of government guaranteed to us. What does that mean? It means we keep the power in the hands of the people. But our Constitution is also there to specifically protect our rights, not to give us permission to act, but to protect our God-given liberties. Specifically, not only do we have all the rights and protections that are listed in our U.S. and Michigan constitutions, those that were just briefly mentioned as the enumerated ones, but we also have all the rest of the God-given liberties. In Article 1, Section 23 of our state constitution, and in the 9th Amendment of our U.S. Constitution, we are guaranteed to be able to exercise all of our unenumerated rights as well. And it's the government's job to make sure that they, nor anyone else, gets in the way of us exercising those rights too. So what does this mean? Well, the government cannot act at all unless we have specifically given them permission to do so.
That's right.
And where would that be? That'd be either in the U.S. or Michigan constitutions. It can't be done in state law. Why? Well, because the law comes from the government. The government can't just give itself power to try to rule us in some way. Yet, on the other side of that coin, we the people, we were given our rights by God. So we don't look to the Constitution for permission on how to act in a situation. I've had thousands of calls since April, people wondering, where does it say in the Constitution that I can do this or I can do that? What law says that I have the right to have my business open or anything like that, that I don't have to wear a mask in public? We don't have to look for a law or a constitutional provision to see that we have rights. Those rights are given to us by God, not the government, not the Michigan or United States Supreme Court. Yet we have the governor and the MDHHS director seeming to think that they can just make orders that infringe upon our rights. In fact, kind of funny that it wasn't that long ago this order or opinion was issued by the Michigan Supreme Court. But it says that prohibiting the right to carry on businesses licensed by the state of Michigan involves the suspension of constitutional liberties of the people. Our Michigan Supreme Court has already said that. Well, that's what we're here to fight about, right? To be able to support the businesses who want to stay open because they have the right to do so, and our government is trying to take that right away. There's all kinds of other provisions in our Constitution that protect our businesses in staying open, though. One of the most simple would be Article 1, Section 10, that says the government, our state government specifically, cannot make a law that impairs the right to follow through on your contracts. Pretty sure by telling businesses they can't be open, can't pay their employees, or they can't pay their the people they're contracted with, or service their customers, that's definitely impacting the contracts they have. But we also need to keep in mind the separation of powers. Unfortunately, our MDHHS director and our governor have been mocking the decision that came out from the Michigan Supreme Court on October 2nd, calling the separation of powers doctrine a notion, something that has never been used to invalidate laws. As long as they're 75 years old, you're not supposed to try to get rid of them. Unfortunately, that's actually language in our state constitution. Those words are not written into the U.S. Constitution. But I'm going to ask you guys to open up your Michigan state constitution. Article 3, Section 2 specifically says we created our government separated into the three distinct branches, and no one person exercising the powers of one branch of government can exercise the powers of another branch of government. And that is actually the same philosophy or terminology found in our state constitution that the Michigan Supreme Court used on October 2nd to say that the governor does not have the right to keep issuing her executive orders under the Emergency Powers of Governor Act. So why they think it's okay then to move forward under some different law that literally is doing the exact same thing is beyond me. And for any of you who think that it's somehow different or that it's, based on different circumstances or different powers, I want to point out to you a few things. Our governor in the beginning of October told us on social media that the court held the 1945 law unconstitutional. But, she continues, I have additional powers that I will use to protect our families from the virus. Namely, the Department of Health and Human Services will issue more epidemic orders to maintain our statewide mask mandate and our limitation on gatherings. In fact, after she explained that the new MDHHS orders restricting gathering sizes and requiring face coverings in public, she said that should sound familiar to us because that's what we've been doing all along, and we're going to keep doing it. In fact, as she referenced all those other statutes that the Public Health Code is involved with, she says that as your governor, I will continue to use every tool at my disposal to combat COVID-19, aka your individual liberties. There is no denying this. She is trying to make law by using whatever law already on the books is out there and stretching it to every unimaginable proportion. But I'm here to tell you, the governor, the MDHHS director who works for her and is in the same branch of government, they have no right to make laws. Our law is very clear about what laws are. In fact, our Michigan Supreme Court said on October 2nd that our legislature cannot make laws that essentially makes more legislators. They only have the authority to make laws. They can't set up a situation where an MDHHS director or a governor is controlling the people in any way, saying which businesses can be open and which ones can't. That you can have outdoor dining restaurants when it's 25 degrees outside, and you can do it in a bubble or in some sort of, makeshift outdoor seating area, which is then probably less ventilated and more enclosed than the actual restaurants would be. None of that stuff is okay. So they don't have the right to do it under our Constitution. Well, are they bound by that? You bet they are. Our U.S. Constitution in Article 6 says that every single one of those government officials has to take an oath to uphold the U.S. Constitution no matter what, if they're going to be in that position. Not just when it's convenient, not just when they like to, not just when COVID or something else scary isn't here. Life sucks. There's things that are scary, and we're supposed to rely on God for our hope in that. We're not supposed to rely on the government to fix all our problems. Aside from that United States Constitution oath, Article 11, Section 1 of our state constitution takes it a step further and says you have to swear an oath to uphold both the U.S. and the Michigan constitutions if you're going to work in government here in our state. In fact, we have a state law, MCL 15.151, that applies that to literally every single government employee. So if you have someone approach you and you're a business owner and it's somebody from MDHHS or MIOSHA or local police or a city clerk or township clerk, anybody in the government, and they tell you that they don't have to be bound by the Constitution or they don't care what the Constitution says or they have no idea what the Constitution says, that's not okay. Every single government employee is bound to support the U.S. and Michigan constitutions, period. If ignorance of the law is no excuse for defendants in court, it is no excuse for the government officials that are supposedly trying to enforce the laws. We have rights, obviously, that you guys know, to peaceably assemble in a situation such as this, or in a restaurant, or in a movie theater, or in any other business that we would like. We have the right to be free from that government interference with our contracts. We have the right to have our businesses earn money the way that the free market economy will let them, because that's a property interest. And we are guaranteed to be able to keep our life, liberty, and property without the government taking it away willy-nilly without due process of law. When you have licensing sanctions and violations that are done on a summarily basis where there's no hearing done first, there's kind of a problem with that. Where would there be due process of law in taking away a business's license or their liquor license or something just because they're trying to be open? It's not okay. So underneath it all, if I can leave you guys with any message, it's something that I have taken for granted, but I've seen it written on the face of people that I've encountered that try to make me wear a mask when I go into a restaurant or into Costco or anything like that. Well, it's the law. The law says you have to do this. The governor has said, point blank, she thinks that what these are laws, that it's the law that you have to mask up, even now with the MDHHS orders instead of her own. But it's not the law. And you need to help your fellow neighbor understand, regardless of their political party, regardless of any community, regardless of if you're normally on the same side of them or not on any particular issue, truly try to help your neighbors understand exactly what is going on, that our government has to follow the rules that are established in the U.S. and Michigan constitutions, that our government agencies don't get to rewrite law whenever they want to.
Right.
I actually had an attorney say to me yesterday on the phone, we were talking about the election fraud issues and everything, that, well, even if a judge issues an order, but it violates a court rule or a statute or the Constitution, you have to keep following it until it's deemed unconstitutional. No, you don't. We are under no obligation to follow any government mandate that violates either the U.S. or Michigan constitutions. Don't let an attorney or judge or government official ever tell you otherwise. Cases that go back over 100 years have been there to tell us that when you have an unconstitutional action by the government, whether it's an executive order, emergency order, whether it's a state law, it doesn't matter. If it's unconstitutional, it's as though it never legally existed in the first place. It is void on its face. You do not have to follow something that's blatantly unconstitutional. And all of these orders are unconstitutional. The sad thing about it is, though, and I'll just leave you guys with this, because a lot of people get, hung up over the language of the statute. Can't really feel my fingers anymore, but. So the law that the MDHHS director is using is part of the Public Health Code, MCL 333.2253. And our local health departments use one that's very similar, 333.2453. Those laws are virtually the same. They give the directors 3 powers. They can do 3 things. 1, they can enforce current health laws. Well, first of all, they have a duty to uphold the U.S. and Michigan Constitution, so if there's a health law that violates the Constitution, they cannot enforce it. But they also have to enforce what's on the books. There's no law on the books that says these businesses have to stay closed during these 3-week pauses that last 10 months at a time.
Right. Open up. 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 Open up.
The second thing that this law or these laws allow them to do is to ensure continuation of essential public health services. Is forcing you to wear a mask the provision of an essential public health service? No, a service is something that's offered. They can offer pregnancy tests. They can offer STD testing. They can offer mammograms or pap smears. They can offer any kind of health service for those who need it, right? They cannot offer a requirement that you cover your face, or that you don't open your business, or that you don't sit with your family on Thanksgiving. That's not a service, and it certainly isn't essential or best for public health. But the number one thing that they think they have the power to do is that this statute actually does allow them to prohibit the gathering of people for any purpose. That's the actual language of the law. I don't know how much clearer it can get that violates our rights to peaceably assemble, to petition our government for redress of grievances, to do all kinds of things, to worship as we see fit. And yes, as we see fit, because our state constitution guarantees us the right to worship according to the dictates of our own conscience, not that of the governor's. So don't ever let the government tell you. I don't care if it's the President of the United States. I don't care if it's the Chief Justice of the U.S. or Michigan Supreme Court. I don't care if it's somebody that's just a school bus driver, a janitor in a government building. Every single one of those people had to take an oath to do their job. They must enforce the Constitution. They don't get to make up the rules whenever they want. You are not bound to follow them until a court hears the case and decides, oh, yep, this is unconstitutional. No, courts get it wrong all the time. That's why they have conflicting decisions and change their precedent all the time. We don't rely on them for our rights. So please support your local businesses that want to stay open. Please exercise your rights. If you want to wear a mask, please do so. If you don't want to, don't feel like you have to. And this is the time for celebration and holidays, where we're supposed to be celebrating the birth of Christ. We just got done celebrating all the wonderful things in our life on Thanksgiving, things that we were supposed to be thankful for. Go ahead and spend that time with your families and your friends. Do not let our government be another reason why people are going to die at higher rates from depression, leading to suicide, or drug and alcohol addictions, or overdoses, or domestic violence, or child protection situations. Be there for your friends and family, and go to them to have them be there for you. Do not let the government try to separate you from the rest of the community. God wants us in fellowship together and be there for each other. Now is our time to stand up and do that. Exercise these rights now while we still can. If we don't all stand up and fight for this, they will take over everything and we will lose our country as we know it.